Marvel's Spider-Man for the PS4 was a great Spider-Man game, and just a really good game in general. So when it was revealed that the next Spider-Man game would be focused on Miles Morales, I was pretty excited to see what Insomniac would do with the next game. Admittedly, I didn't play Spider-Man 2018 until sometime after I saw Spider-Man Into the SpiderVerse, so it was pretty cool to see Miles show up in the Spider-Man 2018 game. I remember watching SpiderVerse around the time it came out a couple years ago, and just being amazed by so much about it. The story, the lovable characters, and just the overall comic book aesthetic of the whole film, and the use of that style to really supplement the story and overall presentation. With the movie being focused mainly on the Brooklyn native, Miles Morales, who I really grew to appreciate with how unique he was, rather than just being a copy and paste of his predecessor, Peter Parker. I didn't know too much about Miles before this movie, but really grew to relate to him in a sense. Moving to a new place and trying to adjust, trying to live up to expectations that feel impossible to reach, and achieving inner confidence and really realizing your potential. Which now brings me back to Spider-Man Miles Morales. Before the game actually starts, Miles recaps the events of his story from the previous game to catch the player up, just in case they didn't play it. These events include the death of Miles' father at the City Hall bombing, as well as Miles acquiring his spider abilities and Peter taking him under his wing. The story for this game takes place about a year after the previous Spider-Man game, and Miles is just moving into his new home in Harlem. So Miles is still figuring out his powers, which consists of being able to discharge bioelectric energy from his fists, as well as the ability to camouflage. Early on in the story, Peter tells Miles that he's going to Simcaria with MJ to do some photography, sort of as a work vacation, leaving Miles to single-handedly defend New York City from any threats that may face it. While I enjoyed the story, I felt it was a bit shorter than the previous game and a bit fast-paced. I would have liked if there was a little more room for the story to breathe, and for Insomniac to explore Miles' relation to some of the other characters in the story, such as Finn, Genki, and his Uncle Aaron. Much like the previous Spider-Man game, having these moments between Peter and Dr. Octavius, really showing off their chemistry. As to be expected, there are still side quests scattered throughout New York. They come in the form of combat, traversal, and stealth challenges, as well as other side quests where you help out the community, acting as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This is a well-made game, and runs nicely even on the PS4. However, I'm not sure if these were only in the PS4 version, but I did manage to run into a few glitches. One of them being a glitch during one of the side quests where Miles seems to camouflage himself from the neck down. There's also another where Miles picks up a photo, but is unable to put it down. This glitch actually soft-locks the game, preventing further progress. Talk about a case of sticky fingers. Thankfully the game autosaves often, so when I restarted from the last checkpoint, I didn't really lose any time. There was also an instance of someone seeming to be way too hopped up on coffee. He's probably going to feel that crash later. The web slinging in this game still feels great, and it really shows off Miles' personality. Much like the previous game, I didn't find myself using the fast travel option that much, so I just found myself swinging from building to building, exploring the city. The combat system for this game is still enjoyable. While Miles may not have as many gadgets to implement into combat as Peter, having 4 to Peter's 8, he's still able to hold his own and make up for it by having a few added abilities that Peter lacks. The use of Venom strikes allow you to take down enemies quicker and more efficiently, and are practically essential against bigger foes. Then there's the camouflage ability, and aside from being used for stealth, can help in combat if you want to buy some time and avoid being damaged, especially since later in the game enemies have special equipment to disrupt it. My thoughts were, since this game felt a bit shorter than the previous Spider-Man game from a couple years ago, maybe this game was going to be DLC, but then they decided to release this as a standalone game because they might release DLC for this game down the road. That way they weren't just adding more DLC on top of DLC. If Insomniac does decide to release DLC for this game, I'm eager to see what they'll do next for Miles. as well as what the next Spider-Man game will be like in general. Since SpiderVerse did so well, especially since it seems probable that the SpiderVerse concept might be introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Maybe they'll tackle the idea of the multiverse again, maybe incorporate more spider characters, much like Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time. We'll just have to wait and see what Insomniac does next for Spider-Man. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this for now. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.